Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Today, I thought this weekend with CPAC and everything else it would just be more of the same bluster from Trump. So think of this as kind of an addendum, an add-on to the video that went up earlier this afternoon. Mostly because, of course, here was me thinking it would be fine, nothing huge would happen at CPAC over the weekend, it would just be more of the same, it would be more Trump bluster, there might be a speech that might need picking apart by someone at some point, but otherwise there wouldn't be anything like huge to touch on. But no, I was wrong, and of course stuff started happening end of Friday, and rumbled straight the way through the weekend to one extent or another, and so I wanted to make this video just to make sure that I captured all the good bits. And the first thing that I want to talk about, which actually affects today's Month in Trump video that went up earlier, but also the Month in Review video that happens tomorrow, that goes up tomorrow, is to do with this woman here, who is Kellyanne Conway, and as I say in the video tomorrow, she is one of my favourite people because she's hilarious. She's in a way that kind of makes you cry on the inside, but you know, the outside's laughing. But not only did earlier in this week or last week did she say that she was the opposition are just woman haters and so on and so forth, even though she was the one backing the male candidate and they were backing the female candidate. They have problems with women in authority. Throwing out that professional victim kind of thing there, just to give herself some extra leeway. But then apparently she's been banned from making TV appearances, and this is a couple of different things. She speculated that she had maybe been barred because it appeared as if she was trying to start up trouble because her information wasn't adding up with the information being put out by the president or Sean Spicer or whoever else. And so now she's come out and she's gone that only about 5% of her role is as an advisor to Trump is her being on TV, and she thinks that the president is his own best messenger, which obviously means she hasn't been listening to what Trump has been saying. And no wonder she's off message, because Trump is not the best representative of himself by any means, which is why at times they've taken his Twitter away from him. Why people have been annoyed with him when he's not read the auto cue and stuff like that, but then she dials up the kind of self-victimization angle a little more by going that by labeling the claims that she had been banned as folks trying to use me as a clickbait in a headline, which, to be fair, possible. We are living in an age of clickbait and kind of instant gratification news and huge kind of spectacle. But the other thing is, then she goes on to say that they were jealous of the reason why they were doing this was because they're jealous of the airtime she received. And it's like, no one's jealous of you because you're just, the more you speak, the more poor information you provide, and the more contradictions you cause, the more lies you highlight for us. The alternative facts thing came from this woman, and that highlighted the lies being told. She's the best ally to the opposition that you could hope for, just because she can't keep her mouth shut, or when she's supposed to speak, she comes out with stuff that just highlights all the flaws and faults. She's an asset in a huge way, and she, as said, is hilarious in a way that makes you kind of miserable and sad on the inside. But anyway, I just wanted to touch on that because, as I said, I talk about her in tomorrow's video. But moving on, we've now got some stuff that started off on Friday with the White House blocking certain news agencies from their press briefing. Yeah, you had CNN, BBC, the New York Times, LA Times, New York Daily News, BuzzFeed, which I kind of understand, The Hill, The Hill, and also, oddly enough, the Daily Mail. But it's really kind of hilarious to me, simply because, some of these, like the BBC, are people that have called Trump out on what he said, and they're obviously kind of pulling it in and censoring more through omission than through kind of active suppression. And it's really interesting because you've got lots of people complaining and ranting and raving, but I find it most interesting. The most interesting response was from the Washington bureau chief for the BBC, and he said, "We understand there may be occasions when, due to space or circumstances, the White House restricts press events to the established pool. However, what happened today did not fit into that pattern. On this occasion, selected media were allowed to attend the briefing, and the selected media, including the BBC, were not. The BBC has a representative at every daily White House briefing, so we are not clear why we were banned from today's. We have sought clarification from the White House team. Our reporting will remain fair and impartial regardless." And the interesting thing here is where a lot of others are throwing their toys out the pram and all the rest of it, it kind of, this is what he's been trying to get towards all along. President Trump, anyone that's contradicted him, anyone that's kind of pushed back against him, anyone that's asked him a hard question that he doesn't really like very much, all of those people he's tried to suppress. He's tried to look past them. In his press conference that I talked about in the video earlier, he very specifically went to look for a friendly face, a friendly question, instead of taking just any question. He made a point to hunt down a question that might be a softball, that might be easy for him to touch on, because he doesn't know what he's doing, because he's afraid of judgment, because he's afraid of other people, and he's got the whole weight of a country resting on his shoulders, and he's hiding from it. But then it gets worse, because then we have President Trump at CPAC, and oh wow, all that stuff that he had already said about fake news and news media being the enemy of the people and stuff like that, he backpedaled on that a little bit, and he was like, no, I was talking about fake news, when actually he was very specific in saying that it was several fairly large news outlets, some of which he didn't actually bother to kind of block from the White House press briefing on the Friday anyway. A bit of a contradiction in terms to one extent or another. But also then he started making calls for anonymous sources to be named. If you're going to come out against him, they need to be named. And it's like, no. There's a reason why whistleblowers have their names removed from things. There is a reason why kind of confidential sources being cited, as long as they are to one extent or another verified by the people working on the story. Obviously we've had things recently on several different occasions, most notably to my mind the Rolling Stone article about the rapes on campuses, where it turned out it was all made up because they hadn't bothered to do the checking on the source that they were using. But again, you can't suggest that using an anonymous source or using sources and naming all of them is a good idea. If anything, that's just providing people who want to silence those sources a list of people to hunt down. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're in favor of them being like the information being put out there or not, then you still can't just put people in the crosshairs of people who would wish to silence them when they are trying to open up information to help. And it's on the news, it's on the news organisations to actually pull their thumbs out their asses and get on and do the investigations, verify the sources, make sure that their information is in some way accurate before publishing. Are journalistic standards what they need to be? No, probably not, and we can say fairly certainly that they aren't in a fair number of cases. But calling just to purely out people, that's horrendous. So because then if you're saying the media is the enemy of the people, when it's not, could it be better? Yeah, of course it could be. Has it gotten worse? Yes. But then again, Trump is making it worse also by telling as many lies as he possibly can. You know, he is incredibly dishonest. He flip flops on issues. He makes stuff up out of the blue, and rather unsurprisingly, that doesn't help stem fake news because he's literally the one writing it. And most of the news is actually becoming maybe slightly better because they're fact checking the lies he's telling, and they're breaking it down and showing him where he's wrong. But then he doesn't like that and he throws a tantrum, you know. But it's like the sources side of things is just, you know, it beggars belief. Just thinking about how he would just want to out all of these people purely so that he can have someone to face. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? He wants someone to face so that he can tackle them, so he can take them on. And yet that's the whole point of an anonymous source. They're providing information to a group that can do something with it without risking their own lives, without risking their own well-being. You know, they're being a contributor to the overall knowledge of society, that mass of information that can be accessed by people, and they shouldn't have to suffer for that. The people who should suffer for it are like the people from the Rolling Stone article who were proven to be telling just lies. But there are people who have been providing anonymous information for ages that have helped stem corruption or at least expose it, who have helped uncover various bits and pieces around fraud and so on and so forth in organisations and government and things like that. You know, those things that may not be the most serious of crimes but do also need to be dealt with because they are damaging to society as a whole. You know, it's an important thing. But then the last thing that he kind of touched on was the kind of fake news. I didn't talk about it like this. You know, they dropped the word fake and now it's all the media. When on his Twitter he dropped an entire list of sources that he was claiming were fake news, including the New York Times, NBC News, ABC, CBS, and CNN. 3 of which weren't blocked from the press conference on the Friday anyway. You know, and so it's a bizarre situation where you've got a president not only wanting to actively combat the press and actively suppress information and just hide away and do things in a completely autocratic way. He then also wants the newspapers and the media just to throw out all of their sources so that he can take aim at them. You know, I mean, he's not above twisting the knife. He's a horrible little child. And children can be the worst people, especially when they're leaders of countries. So weird to say that. But anyway, moving on from that, there was one other thing that he said in his speech that really stood out to me. You know, there were a whole load of other things that he went into that were just nonsensical, but then again, we're used to that with Trump. But there was one thing that stood out which really, really bugs me, and this is because I have nurses in my family. I live in a country where we've got the National Health Service, as much as the Tories seem to be wanting to get rid of that sometime soon because they're morons and they want to just damage it into the ground. But he was talking about Obamacare. And now Obamacare isn't a perfect system, but it's a system that opened up access to insurance, health insurance specifically. You know, it was Affordable Care Act, that was the name of the thing, and it was successful to an extent because it provided about 20 million people with access to coverage, you know, that they wouldn't have had previously. It opened up a whole load of extra bits and pieces for payment of Medicaid and other bits and pieces, and making sure that everyone was covered, punishing people who didn't take the time to make sure that they were covered, you know, instead of going for a proper socialised healthcare system, which is a shame, you know. But they've had a long system over there in America whereby you're having to pay for your coverage, but this was making sure that those people that were in the worst possible situations could gain it, and therefore their lives were improved, and you would be paying overall less for medical assistance, because you'd have people who weren't afraid to go to the doctor and who wouldn't worry about going and seeking medical health medical health assistance when they were like down on their luck or didn't have any money. It meant that even the lowest parts of society were able to then better contribute because they were healthy. And you've got various bits and pieces where, thinking about it over time, you've got people who are going to have different plans, and they're going to move around, they're going to change things with their situation, and so you're not going to have all of those people on the Obamacare plans for life necessarily. The healthier someone is, the better they are to then go and search for another job and do more and try more. And as a result, you're enriching your country as a whole. You're enriching that person's life. You're enriching communities. And yet now they want to completely get rid of that, because apparently 20 million people is covering not many people. And you've got 300 and something million and 330 million, I think, people in the United States as a whole. So yeah, as a proportion of that, not a huge number of people, but it's still significant, and you're talking about the kind of, he was saying that it kind of detracts and damages what people can do, and how Obamacare took stuff away from people. And as I said, yeah, it wasn't the perfect system, but actually it opened up access to so many people, and it meant that plans were there and available, and you had access to things that the healthcare website that they set up, which broke on the first day, granted, but then was able to later on, once it was functioning, help people find the right policies for them, so that they could get medical help and the care that they needed. It's amazing how he thinks that this isn't a damaging thing, taking away this pillar. And that's why in the town hall events for Republican senators and things over the last week or two, you've had people coming out and basically shouting down the Republicans who are wanting to remove Obamacare, and the other options that they've been suggesting have been so subpar or not fit for purpose that it's astounding. But that'll be something interesting to keep an eye on. But again, this proves that Trump is living in his tiny bubble. No one's willing to confront him in a substantial enough way to kind of make any change in his mind about these things, if that's even possible with someone as childish as him. But anyway, those are the things that happened over the end of Friday and over the weekend that really stood out to me. Again, as I said in the video earlier, if there's anything that I missed out, then please let me know, and we'll maybe have a discussion about it in a video coming up over the next couple of weeks or something. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you found this at all interesting, then please drop me a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.